Hello, this is Robert Rickover. I'm an Alexander technique teacher in Lincoln, Nebraska. I also teach regularly in Toronto, Canada, and online. My guest today is Rabbi Shefa Gold. Uh, Shefa lives in the mountains of New Mexico. She received her ordination from the Reconstructionist Rabbinical College and from Rabbi Zalman Schachter, and is the director of the Center for Devotional Energy and Ecstatic Practices. She's produced 10 albums and is the author of 4 books. Her new project is called Love at the Center. And before the pandemic hit, like most of us, she traveled around the world teaching Jewish spiritual practice, meditation, and chant, but now is doing it on Zoom. And I will put a link to Shefa's website by the interview, and you can learn more about her work. Shefa, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
It's really a pleasure talking to you. Um, How did you first learn about the Alexander technique?
I first learned about the Alexander technique because my husband was dealing with chronic pain and he was just looking everywhere for some relief. And I always kind of tagged along. Whatever he was learning, I was learning also, because I found that whatever he was learning about about posture, about movement, about the flow of energy through his body was also very important to the work that I do in my rabbinate. Because really what I want to bring people to is a place of more presence, more vitality, greater self-awareness, an ability to be spontaneous and find expression from deep inside us. I'm always looking in my practice to find support and stability and an inner spaciousness. And when I learned some of the teachings that he was learning about from the Alexander technique, I thought, I applied those to the work that I do. And a lot of my work I do with chanting, which is a way of embodying the sacred words of Torah, of Scripture. And when I embody those words, they become really integrated inside me. And it's not just thinking about things, but living those truths. And I found that some of the teachings from the Alexander technique were about inhibiting, my patterns of my habitual patterns of moving and speaking and interacting with the world. And when I inhibit those patterns, what emerges for me is something that is more authentic, more aware, and that was giving me a different language to talk about it. And I feel like it's so important that our spiritual practice be embodied. And when I feel the support inside me, then it feels like I relax. The support gives me that message that I can relax. And when I relax, I can open. And when I'm opening, then I feel like I am receiving what God wants to give me in this very moment.
Yeah. And just for our listeners who might be a little confused about the word inhibit, Alexander folk tend to use it in a very different way than Sigmund Freud did, which
Mm-hmm.
was repression in his case. Whereas in the Alexander world, it's just not doing the stuff that's getting in your way, just deciding, I'm just gonna let
Well,
something else happen.
it felt like it was just waking me up to some to the ways that I am caught in habits,
Yeah,
and and
exactly.
and so
Exactly.
what I'm looking for in my life is more consciousness, more awareness,
Mhm.
and to not live on automatic. And
Hmm.
to not live on automatic means to live with purpose, with deliberateness, with intention. And a lot of the work in chanting is about establishing an intention for what comes out of my mouth, for what what I'm chanting. And that intention is a full body experience. So if I'm automatic, I'm on automatic, I don't find my intention. It's kind of like I'm living a bit asleep. And
Hmm.
so it was, those concepts of self-awareness, of pausing to notice that I'm in a pattern or in a habit and stopping, and then the idea of direction or choice or intention or deliberateness that I can bring to each moment of my life. To me, those are not just things I do for my body. It's my whole being really benefits from that added awareness and sense of choice in my life.
Hmm. And my understanding is that you use chanting as um, a means towards embodiment, both for yourself and your students or the
Yeah,
people you're
there's
working with.
the sense when I'm chanting is that I'm not, I'm taking something beautiful and wise that might even be mysterious in
Hmm.
in a sacred language of Hebrew, and I'm chanting it over and over again in order to bring it alive inside me, and which leads me then to insight and a kind of a revelation that, oh, this is not just something I think about. This is a way that I can live my life. So if I'm chanting the words that are of gratefulness that I chant each morning, I might say, Moda ani lefanecha. Moda ani lefanecha. Moda ani lefanecha. And if I chanted it long enough, I would begin to have the deeper meanings be revealed to me. Because really, what I'm saying in the chant, I'm saying, I gratefully acknowledge your face, the miracle that's always here before me. And I'm placing myself in relationship with that miracle. But the chant gives me an experience of it. So I'm not just talking about it, I'm actually experiencing that. And that changes how I sit, what my posture is, how I hold myself. Because when I'm in the presence of God, I certainly sit up a lot straighter and my heart opens,
Right,
and
right.
I become receptive. And so I think of chant as a way of exploring the sacred word
Hmm.
and expressing it in new ways. And if I'm just accepting some old way, an old pattern, an old habit, or somebody else's definition,
Right,
then it's not so exciting. It kind of becomes dead.
right.
And I want to
And
bring it alive.
and can you sense that when you use the Alexander principles, that not only are you achieving more of what you want, but your audience is as well?
Well, I don't think of it as much as an audience, but I think of it as that when I'm in that place of aliveness, other people want to come and join me there,
Hmm. Hmm.
and and are not content to just sit back and watch it happen. They want to be doing it as well.
Right.
And
So they
so
chant with you. They'll chant
yeah.
with you. Right. Right. Okay.
And then the idea is not only do we chant, but in the silence after the chant, we do a process of inquiry of like, oh, what was that? How did that feel in your body? How did it affect the rhythm of your breathing? how do you move differently when,
Hmm.
when that chant is resonating in you? And
Hmm.
very often the chant moves me to gesture, to movement, to a way of unlocking tension in my body.
Hmm.
I was chanting yesterday. My husband and I were chanting, and he had actually had a spontaneous chiropractic adjustment in his
Yeah.
neck
Yeah.
from just the relaxation of chanting.
Wow. Have you found that Alexander principles have helped you outside of chanting, just daily activities, or does
Yeah.
the effect of the chanting itself just carry over on its own into those activities?
Chanting is just one modality that I use. I
Hmm.
think that the way that the Alexander technique has influenced me is just waking me up to this moment so that I'm
Hmm.
not living in my head. I want to be fully inhabiting my body, and noticing where I'm holding tension, uh, and and really exploring new ways to move. I think of my life as a dance, and the instruction I give myself, which I think maybe is attuned to the Alexander technique, instruction I give it is, can you move in a way you've never moved before?
Hmm.
And that when I dance that way, when I live that way, there's always a kind of an exploration of presence and of posture, and I don't get stuck in a particular pattern because I'm always looking for some new way that my body can move.
Hmm.
And that's exciting, and I think that's what brings me to this place of more aliveness, and that's what I feel like religious practice ought to bring us to: more aliveness, more
Right.
enjoyment of this moment.
Right. Um, any other things you'd like to say about the Alexander chanting connection, or the Alexander your life connection?
I think that I'm always trying to enjoy more this present moment, but
Hmm.
then I also have to deal with pain sometimes and constriction,
Right.
and the more awareness and compassion and kind of a spaciousness I bring to those moments of challenge, difficulty, pain. So I
Hmm.
think what I receive from the Alexander technique is a kind of an attitude towards that pain or constriction that is that explores it in a compassionate and more expansive way. That I don't have to be stuck with it. That there are so many different avenues that I can move into. So,
Mm.
so that's I think the influence that it has for me is, because I want my body to be almost like the metaphor for my whole life, and so
Hmm.
if if I'm paying attention to my body, it is the vehicle through which God is expressing God's self. So I want to be the best, clearest vehicle I can be.
Mm. Wow. Yeah, I sometimes the Alexander technique is called embodied mindfulness, and it
Mhm.
sounds like you're definitely using it in that way and from that point of view. Yeah.
Yeah, and as I said, I don't know it really well, but when I learn something, I just go run with it. I
Hmm.
just sort of say,
Hmm.
take those principles and saying, how do I want to live those principles?
Right, right. Anything else you want to add?
I think that's good. I'm so happy that you asked me to speak with you because it reminded me of some things that I know that I don't necessarily articulate. So that I think that this sense of inner support that I am held, I am embraced, I am supported from within
Hmm.
is really what allows me to unfold, relax, and be receptive to just this amazing life.
Well, maybe we should end on that note. What do you think?
That's great.
My Thank you so much for this. My guest has been Rabbi Shefa Gold, and I will put a link to her website by the interview. Shefa, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you.